It's been a long day. It's been a very long day. All right, so we are working on files. We're going to open and read a text file. We're going to manipulate the data we get from that text file. And we're going to have a successful lab. If it kills me. This lab that I'm going to do, or demonstration I'm going to do, directly correlates to the lab you're going to turn into me before Tuesday. The things I do here are very, very similar to the things I'm going to ask you to do on your own. So pay attention. So if you're reading through the directions, we're going to do the same thing we normally do. We're going to save the file with your name in it. This should be pretty standard. It's at the top of everything I give you to turn in.
As far as the scope of this class, are we also going to write to the file, or we just purely?
And this particular class, we are not going to be writing to the file. We're just going to be reading and using the file. In other classes, when you get to the CS1 class, you do more writing to the files. But for our particular purposes right now. Now, if you do project 4, I think it has some writing in it, but project 4 is optional. So, and like I said, it would just be one little piece that was a challenge.
You go to the CXs, C's, S, X labs, or something like that.
For project 4, yes. I have no problem with you using the CSX lab for your projects, except for like part 3 or C. And even then, they know that things like general questions they can answer, they just can't give you specific. So you're like, could you give me an example of how to write to a file? Then they could probably, I don't have a problem in answering that. And they know me pretty well. We've talked about this. So if you run into something that they can't answer, please screenshot it and send me an email. I answered questions at 2 a.m. one day last week on the list project because I was up and bored. If you don't ask, I can't help you. All right. So we're going to go down here to our idle that we have open. And I'm going to get a new file. I'm going to make the text bigger where all you guys in the back can see it. I'm going to make it really narrow. We're going to try to get both of these on the screen at the same time. Might work. We'll see. All right. So we're going to be talking about comma separated files. There's a link if you want to learn more about them. Go learn more about them. So we're going to write a function called open and read golf scores. And the function is going to open up a text file that already exists. To get that text file, you need to go to your content page. And you have 2 choices here. I'm on the wrong content page. It's been one of those days. There's a golf scores text file and a grades text file. We're going to be doing golf scores for this one. The grades is for your lab you're going to turn into me. Now, you can download these files as is. Just make sure they say it as a text file. Put them in the same folder as where you're saving your .py file to, and you're golden. It'll work. Beautiful. If you don't want to download them, you can open them, copy and paste them into a text file. If you're choosing, save it, whatever. You do have to use the data from this file because I'm going to be grading from the data in this file. You could use other data, I guess. But if you want to be sure that it works and that you're going to get what I'm going to get, use these files. All right, so I'm going to go, I think yours looks the same as mine. I don't know, probably not. But I'm just going to hit download. And when I open it up, it looks like this. Really tiny. But if you open it up, it's got last name, comma, first name, comma, a number, which is their golf score. And I'm going to be honest with you, I knew nothing about golf when I started doing this. So I don't expect you to. So the directions will tell you what par means and birdie and all that stuff because putt is the extent of my golf experience. Yeah. So this is the data I'm going to use to test with. You can create more, you can put more files in here if you want to, or more records in here if you want to, but remember to follow the format of last name, first name, score. All right, so I have that. It's in my downloads folder. That's not going to help me much when I get ready to start running this. So I'm going to grab it and drag it over to the desktop because that's usually where I save all of my idle stuff in this particular class. You save it somewhere else. This classroom doesn't give me a lot of leeway on where I can save files to. All right, so back to idle. I have an untitled file. I'm going to save as. I'm going to go to the desktop because I want it to be in the same place as my folder or the file I just downloaded. And I'm just going to. I don't care what you name it at this point because you're not turning it in to me. So you can name it whatever you want to since you're not really turning it in to me. All right, so did that. Get my Word document back up. So the first thing we need to do is we are going to write a function called open and read golf scores that will open that text file. So read in all the players' names and scores in the files is going to then have everything we need. Be sure after you've read everything in and you have it stored that you close your file. Then I take points off. Python lets it keep going, and I take points. Python and a lot of other languages too will let your program continue running with a file open. When it becomes a problem is when you've opened a lot of files and you've now bogged your system memory and your system down. It also, if you are reading and writing, could potentially allow unintentional writes to your file if you haven't closed it when you think it's closed. So it's one of those do as we say, not necessarily as is allowed situations.
Oh, yeah. Might be worthwhile. PSA, be careful about writing files.
Yeah, once you write it in this situation, if you start writing files, you overwrite something, it's gone. Bye-bye. No undo. Gone. Be very careful accessing files directly this way. This is not a Windows operation or a Microsoft Word operation where you can go, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Undo. That'll work. No. This is hardcore. So don't do it. So we want to go in here and let's start writing some code. I'm going to need a main function always, so I'm going to do that first. And why do I always put a print line in main? Just where there's something there for me to go back to. It's just a formatting thing I do. I usually ask you guys to put your name in there. It's just another easy peasy kind of thing for me when I have code open and I'm trying to write down grades. Let's look up the name. Go, oh yeah, that's this person. That's who I'm in. Instead of having to go back and look at the file name and stuff. So anyway, so that's main. We're going to create this function, open and read golf scores. And because I'm lazy, I'm going to copy it. paste it. It's going to open a text file and read all the players' names and scores in that file. All the golf scores will be stored in a list, and that list will return from the function. So we're going to have a return statement, right? Note the data stored on each line of the text file is the golfer's last name, then the first name, and the golf score. Each field is separated by a comma. Look up comma separated files if you want to. In this function, do the following. Open the file as a read-only file and assign it a variable which will hold the open file object. Remember from the slides we did last week or no, Tuesday? How to do this? Anybody? Feel free to open those slides back up if you want to. I'm going to call my variable data because it's going to be the raw data, right? And I don't have to come up with, I could call it golf data, but I'm being lazy. I'm just going to call it data. And then we're going to open file name. Comma. Remember I told you that you open the file by giving it the name you're looking for and some condition after the comma or the second condition is read, write, read only, read and write. There's a lot of options there. You can go look them up, but the one we're going to use is going to be read. Read. Read only. The R is the read only portion of that. Okay, so now theoretically, I have read this file in. I have opened it.
You need to put the .txt.
Yes. Good catch. You do need the TXT. This is what happens when I talk and type at the same time. Now, if you don't have this in the same folder, you would have to have the folder name / golfscores.txt. This is where we were talking about class names and stuff in class. That's the reason I'm going to tell you the easiest thing to do for all of the stuff we're doing that has folders involved. And I'm going to tell you this with project 3 too. When I give you extra files for it, put them all in the same folder that you save the .py where you don't have to put in path names. If you like path names, feel free to do the extra work, but it's not required. All right. I've had a few students in the past that are like, nope, that messes up my organizational scheme. I'm like, well, that's fine. You figure it out. Whatever makes you happy. Easier is fine.
Say organizational scheme.
I have one.
For a reason.
Most people wouldn't consider it an organizational scheme. It's mine. It's kind of chaotic. All right. So we did that. Create an empty list called scores. Okay, I got an empty list. Write a for loop that will iterate over the lines in the file. Remember the book has, oh no, the book, that's, I need to type that out. That's the old book. The new book probably does have an example of this too, but we showed you an example of the slides of how to do this. So feel free when you're working on any of my labs to have the slides open. You might copy and paste some stuff. You might not. So let's do that. We're going to write a for loop that's going to iterate over the files. So for I want to read one record at a time, so I'm going to make my loop variable record because that's what I'm dealing with. We're getting it out of data. And now we've got this called the split function where we can take that line or that record and break it down and get the individual pieces. Now I'm going to be honest with you. I mix the split function up all the time. So I'm going to go to the API. And do string. It didn't give me anything. Don't do that to me. Let's just do strings then. We're going to go to string class, and then I'm going to look for split. Because I know y'all think I have everything memorized. I do not. Why is this being annoying?
So it's just biggest string.
Yeah, that's true. Constants formatting, syntax.
Look up just split.
Well, I could try that. String split. Hey, that worked. All right, so we're going to use the name of the string, dot split, what the separator is, right? So down here, if I wanted to split on the comma, this right here is what I'm looking for. And oddly enough, I'm lazy again, so absolutely. So now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go record. Well, I'm going to go no, because if I use scores, then it's going to not be just a score. We're reading one record at a time. So I need another list here that's just a temporary holder. So golf scores is going to, our golf score is going to be my temporary list. And it only exists inside this loop. So every time the loop runs, it's going to change to the next record. So the first time it's the first record, the second time it'll be the second record. It's not something that we're storing. We don't need the whole record over and over again, right? So this is going to let me read that record. It's going to split the record at the commas and put the information into a list called golf score. Now I can take that list and pull out the element I need, which is the last one. So in this case, we want scores now. To append and I need the last record. So what is the index number of the last record? For this one would be 2 because we are the last element of the record because we want that. There's only 3 elements, so 0, 1, 2. Now, this is very specific to this file. And there's really not much way to make it work without it being very specific to the file, because we we have to know what's in the file to be able to do it. We can't make it some generalization.
Golf school stuff. Nice one.
Yeah, you could do that, but then you have to, you have to make sure that whoever added to the file didn't add a fourth column. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's good.
And this is about as good as it's gonna get. It's okay. I know I tell you not to do that other times, but this unit, we're going to specify a number of where we're going. So scores has nothing in it. By using a pin, every time it gets one, it's just gonna keep adding to it. And because scores was created before the for loop, it doesn't reset to empty. It just keeps adding to it. Now, if I had not declared it as an empty list before the for loop, and I had just done it where it's at, you would just have one score when you were finished, and it would be the last. All right, so I've done that. In my Word document back. All right, so now I should have a list at this point, and because I'm a paranoid person and I like to check and make sure everything's working correctly, I'm going to test it at this point and make sure that this much of it works before we go any further, but I have to return my list first. So up here now, to test it, I'm going to go to main and I'm going to go print. Yes, we did. But I said I was being paranoid. I want to see if what I have is working. So I test a lot more frequently than I think you guys do. I think I test a huge amount more frequently than you guys do. But it's really not. You do have to put the close before the return. And if you don't put it before the return, as soon as it hits return, it exits that function and the lines below there are ignored. So if I run this now, I have an error. I left the S off of open and read golf scores. For shame, for shame. Hey, look at there. I have a list. Yes, sir. Why is it giving me \n? If you remember from Tuesday, I told you that it's going to read each line till it gets to the end. And the last element in the list is always going to have the return character added to it. So you're going to have to remove the return character. Now, you don't have to do that until you get ready to start doing your other things. So we'll clean that up in a minute. But you can do that very, very easily by, since all of these are 3-digit numbers. You can go in and pull each string in and say, you know, use the trim functions or whatever from string to get rid of the last 2 elements. So we'll do that in a minute though. But yes, that's a good observation. If you, by doing this, since it was the last element, it automatically took the return character with it because it read it as a straight string. So that means we'll have to use some of those formatting things with strings that we learned in strings. And you're gonna have to, first you gotta get rid of the /n, and then you have to turn them into an int to do math with them. Because you can't do math with them right now because /n is not a number. Yeah. Computer science, it's so tedious sometimes.
Characters.
You can remove characters, you can substring it, you can do a lot of things. Whatever's easiest for you is fine with me. After the loop, close the file and then return the list statement. Remember, if you do this close statement after the return, it's ignored because return already sent you back. All right, so we've done that. Now we want to analyze the golf scores that we just created. So we've already called that, and then once we do that, we want to, or we've already created open read scores. So inside analyze golf scores, we're going to call open and read. Could you do both those calls in main? Absolutely, but if you follow the directions, you won't. So this is no longer needed. It was just a testing line. So let's create our next one. So this one's going to be analyze golf scores. It's going to do this. So we need a variable down here again, so we'll call it golf. I'm just gonna call it scores again. Now, why can I use scores again for a different list in this function?
Because this was created.
Exactly. The scores created in the other function only exists in that function. It was a local variable to that function. So now I can use it as a local variable in this function. So that should give me that list that we just had. And now we want to take the list of scores and return and print the following. Right? So we want to return and print the number of scores, the winning score, which someone pointed out to me is the lowest score in golf. The average score, the number of scores below par in this case is 280. I don't know if that changes or not. I have no idea. I think it has something to do with the holes and how complex they are. Some of you is a golf expert want to tell me, that's great. The number of scores above par, and I think par means break even. Okay. And the numbers that are at par. You may want to write some helper functions to calculate this. So what I probably would do is write a function that does the average. But you don't necessarily have to do that because we know that in a list of numbers, once we get rid of that return character, that we can use min, max, and then sum divided by length. But if you want to use helper functions, go for it. So let's talk about how we're going to get rid of the return character. Or let's test and play with it and see if we have to. So we know that we can do min scores, and theoretically that should give us the smallest one. If it was just numbers, it would give us the smallest one, right?
Yeah, you're
I'm going off on a tangent, just testing stuff. I'm not actually following the directions right now or doing anything in order. I'm just
okay, so
testing to see if we have to get rid of that slash in. You see what I'm saying? Or proving some points. So oh look, I use those functions. It didn't make me, huh? Florida. Strings have a value too. Because an A has a value, a numeric value. So let's play with that. So let's print scores to make sure that that was and then so theoretically, if I'm not crazy, and I may be, this should work. Now, Java would have a fit to do this.
Yeah, nurses compared to Java with the slash.
Probably not. I'm not. I think.
We'll call that an issue.
I was just about to reply, never having to go back and work that.
Well, Java would let you also read the file in different ways. It wouldn't necessarily, if you knew you were reading a number, you could get next in.
Yeah.
In the file. Instead of just randomly making it all strings. So, yeah. So it's not going to like doing the math here because it's doing it off of the other things.
Question, if it allows, you can use any function, it doesn't apply to all of this and then back function. It's trying to back. Because at that point, slashing is script.
Yes, it would. Let's see. Looks like it. We're being crazy. I'm sorry. He's trying to come up with a simple way to get rid of the /n, where you can do math with it. So what you could do is convert every one of the elements in score to an integer, and that seems to get rid of it. So you can write yourself a quick little loop that went through every element in scores and converted the data, get it out, convert it to an int, put it back. It's an interesting concept. This is why I love computer science. There's no one absolute correct way to do everything. The way you guys think about it, the way I think about it are completely different things. But let's write something that gets rid of it where people will have an example of how to get rid of it, right? So I'm going to get rid of all of, well, I'm going to leave the print there because I want to be able to see what the scores are. All right, so let's think about this. How do I want to strip that away where I can do math with my numbers? Or do I not want to worry about it for everything except average and do the stripping in a helper function for average? That's up to you. Y'all want to make a decision?
Are you asking us?
Yes, I'm asking you.
Which one makes more sense? Look.
I don't know that either one of them makes better sense one way or the other. because, no, you're still gonna have to run the loop.
You
Shade.
pros and cons here, that's all I'm saying.
Okay.
It's how your brain works. Whatever makes the most logical sense to you is the best way to do it. All right, you got an idea. Let's hear your idea.
Or go to the scores.com, the open sheet,
This one?
do ends, and then do min, and then do
And in here?
and do a min, do a min.
You don't want to do min. Well, you could, I guess you could do min. What if we just do in on it?
But if you do enter, the golf score has the entire string.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
I see what you're saying.
I did min.
No, okay, no, what you're doing is too confusing. I'm not doing that to people.
Hey, I had an idea, all right?
Your idea, I think, would absolutely work, but you test it at home because I think it will confuse other people in this classroom.
Like me.
Because it took me a second to catch up with you. So if it took me a second to catch up with you, it's gonna take them a second to catch up with you too. All right, so I'm gonna do it in here. Because that's where we're working right now. For a score, in scores. Notice how one's singular and one's plural. Makes them two different variables. So I'm going to do it a score, in scores, and I want to change it. So, right, so I want to take score. I hate writing code off the top of my head. When we did when we were doing the grade distribution, how did we change the number in the list? We got it out, we added one to it, right? And then we set it back. Okay, right? Yeah. Let's see if it works. Go back to my strings. Which string function do we want to use to get rid of something? We can't use split.
Are we doing the getting rid of the?
The slash n, yeah.
Hold on. Hold on, wait. That's good. Can we use that suffix?
Huh, let's see.
And treat the slash in like a suffix.
Let's try it. I kind of like that idea.
Suffix to that.
Yeah.
Try to see if we can get a slash in. It's just not treating those suffix.
Well, the reason he's saying that is because we could do, oh, it's the other way.
I was gonna start with a name. Off the pipeline.
That's a really long name.
So, that's
Yeah. Somebody probably added that later in the Python. It wasn't from the original one.
like.
That's not gonna work. No, the function may work. My loop's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Because I actually need it to be for I in range. I'm going to tell you why I'm going to use a regular loop instead of this loop, because I want to be able to, I don't want to change just score. The other loop would let me change the score, but it wouldn't let me put it back in the list.
Okay.
So it would let me change, this would let me change score, but I really need to do scores I here.
Wait a second. Okay.
let me explain it. The reason I want to do it this way is because the other way touches every element, but it doesn't actually let you put it back into the original list. You can modify the element temporarily, but you can't set it back. And what we need to do is be able to have it set it back. Otherwise, we're just changing the one we're currently on without ever saving what we did. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So let's see if this works.
Hold on, cut that out.
Yeah, I know, we gotta. Gotta have something to actually show me it did something. So let's see if this works, because we want to test, see if that prefix, remove suffix thing worked. Yeah. Okay. I left the parentheses off. Hey, look, it worked. They're still strings, but it's much easier to convert a string to an int now, right? So now we have scores. We can print winning. My caps lock was off, you know. Winning score. And then we could do and all those other things. I'll let you guys, but now I can create an average by doing another 4. Just let me write, and then so to do the average now, instead of trying to use the built-in functions, I need to convert them to integers and then do some math. So I'm just going to write it the long way. You can put this in all talking to yourselves. I don't know if you're.
Trying to see where you're going to.
Okay, so this all could be in a helper function called average, but I didn't. I just wrote it. All right, so now I should be able to. So let's run that and see if it works.
That's what
Yeah. I obviously think faster than I type. So we go to our Word document. That's the correct average. Nope, it's not the correct average. Why is that not the correct average? Huh? They must be using different numbers because the winning score is different.
I mean,
Yeah, one of these should have been 67 instead of 77. Somebody mistyped the file. So it looks like it's working without me having to go and edit the file. So the typo in the text file, one of them should have been 267 instead of 277. So the remove suffix absolutely works. You just want to remove the last trailing characters. Remove suffix absolutely works. Are there other things that'll let you work? Yeah, you could substring it from 0 to 3, right? And then it gets rid of. Can you put? I've kept y'all later than I normally do. Sorry. Can you put all of this code right here into a helper method called get average? Absolutely. Do you have to? No. Does that make sense? So to finish this out, I need to print the winning, the average, the number of scores below par, the number of scores above par, the number of scores equal to par. These last three are if statements where you're going to add, you're going to have an if score is something, you're going to add one to par. If it's above par, you're going to add one to above par. If it's equal to, you're going to add it to par. So that's an if statement. I'm not going to write it right now because it's really not new material. It's just you using the trick. But since I've already converted this right here, converted, shows you how to convert it to ints. You might go ahead and do those totals, those tallies and the ifs inside this loop because you already have the loop. You know, think smarter, not harder. So, all right. Any questions before I cut you guys loose? Do you think that you can do your assignment on your own? Will you be here tomorrow in class if you need help? Yeah. If you're online and you need help, will you email me and let me know? You can't answer that question, so I'm going to hope to. Please email me and let me know if you have questions. If you're in person or online, you can always send me a screenshot of what is giving you problems, and I will answer it. You can come by my office between 1:30 and 3:30 in person if you want me to look at your code. Now, this week's a little crazy because everybody wants to be advised, but in between advisees, I will look at your code. You can come on any day of the week. I'm here. All right, y'all have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow if you come to class. If not, I'll see you Tuesday.